Hello and welcome to Hey, I Loved That Movie, the podcast where we rewatch the films we loved when we were younger to see if they still hold up. I'm Dan.
I'm Michael.
I'm Helena.
And for this episode, we have special guest Jackson Baly.
Whoa!
Raucous applause.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
We'll put all that in after.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
post-production.
That's how people know the podcast is funny, because we tell them when to laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, more podcasts need a laugh track. That would be crazy.
So Jackson, what movie have you chosen for us today?
So I've chosen it was never theatrically released, but it is a movie nonetheless. It's certainly movie length. Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers. One of, I think, 3 Scooby-Doo television movies that were made in like the early 80s or the mid 80s or something, where Scooby-Doo meet the eponymous Boo Brothers. Oh my god.
One of the few where for some reason Shaggy is wearing a red shirt.
Yes. I don't know why he's wearing a red shirt. Why'd they change it? What does it mean? Did they not have enough green? I don't know. But Shaggy's in a red shirt. And Daphne, Velma, and Fred are nowhere to be seen. It's just Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy, baby.
Yeah.
That
Shaggy and
catch
2
me
dogs.
by surprise because it's still called Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers. I mean,
Scooby's still in it.
Scooby does
Yeah,
Weird
Scooby's
if he
there.
it does
Yeah.
it was interesting watching a very long episode of Scooby-Doo.
It's so long.
It's so long.
It's
So
somehow
long.
dragged so much.
It was crazy. Like, because where I was watching it, like, I didn't remember how long it was, and I started it, and then I looked down at like how much longer I had to go, and I was like, no way is it an hour and a half? No way it's that long. And then like it was playing, and I was like, surely like that extra half hour is like the thing's glitched or whatever. Like, how could there be anything more to go? But
No.
far out.
It
It's
continues,
an hour
it
and a
keeps
half.
going.
It keeps going.
What?
It was so long. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
So what was your sort of nostalgia for this film then? You said you used to watch this one quite a bit when you were a kid.
Yeah, I did. Well, so my I never had like Foxtel, which is like the Australian like cable TV or whatever. Like yeah. So I never watched Foxtel as a kid. I never had it. But my aunt did. And sometimes when I was staying at her place, I would watch Foxtel on her TV. And I would watch heaps of Scooby-Doo. That's where I watched all my early Scooby-Doos. And all of the Scooby-Doo clones, like that one that was just Scooby-Doo, but the dog was like a white Great Dane instead of Scooby. And one of the kids had a camera. I don't know. Or all of those Scooby-Doo clones. I watched them. There's so many of them.
That's brought back some weird memory, and I have no idea what from.
Yep.
Like, I recognise that from the description, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
That might have been Funky Phantom, to be honest, where some kids are hanging out with a really funky phantom. Or it might have been Buggy, Speed Buggy, or who knows? Look, there were so many. But this they used to play occasionally. Like it would be like just the kind of thing that was in the rotation when you're watching, I think it was called Boomerang, that had all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and they used to play this. And every time they played it, I watched it. And then I think I got the like VHS of it, or we taped a VHS of it. Like we recorded it, and I had it on VHS. And yeah, I would just watch it again and again, which I think is so funny because it terrified me as a kid. Like I was so scared of it. But it must have been like, you can enjoy horror, like you can enjoy being scared. And that must have been I would have been like 7, and that must have been my first inklings of what it was like to enjoy horror. Like I was like, oh my God, this is bad, but I'm going to keep watching Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers because some part of me's loving this. And yeah, so that's kind of my association with it. And then I think my deep love of Scooby-Doo probably spiraled out of that as well. But I always remember it being different and a bit like spookier than a regular Scooby-Doo episode, which I don't know what I was thinking, because it is just one huge Scooby-Doo episode.
It really could have been condensed into a 20, maybe a 2-parter, but
I honestly think it could have been 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You could tell the whole story.
If the rest of the team had been there, they'd have worked this out in approximately 5 minutes.
Yeah. Every time. So another thing I did, right? Because, so the premise of it is that Shaggy there's a witch ghost in his house, so he leaves, I think.
Yep.
And then because there's the witch at the start who sings the song about the Boo Brothers.
Yeah,
and
it must have
then-
been terrifying. Being Shaggy and being like, this witch is singing.
I gotta get out of here.
She gives
And
him
then
an
he's like, well-
invitation to the or like the deed to the house or something. doesn't she?
It's the will, because the
Yeah. You know it's spooky because it rhymes.
Her 150
exactly.
year old, her 150-year-old uncle died. His 150-year-old uncle died because he's a Confederate.
Yeah, Shaggy's the
Shaggy
descendant
is-
of slave owners. 100%.
Yeah, which was a crazy
Yeah, I was gonna
revelation.
say, shall we talk about the fact that he inherits a plantation?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just not shy about it at any point. And they're like, whoa, it's a Civil War cave full of munitions.
Ooh.
Like, I guess I'm not expecting Scrappy-Doo to be like, let me tell you, let's talk the finer points of the Civil War. Let's just take a moment and talk about, like, but still, it's a crazy revelation. But you kind of got that all the time back in the old Scooby-Doo. Like, they fight so many Confederate and Union ghosts. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
But then they arrive there, and they discover that there's not only is there a mansion to be inherited, there's like a treasure, but they need to solve clues to get the treasure. And every time a new clue would happen, like halfway through watching this movie, I looked up the Wikipedia for it, which for some reason has a list of the clues.
Yeah, no, I couldn't work that out. I couldn't work that out.
But then I was like, I would be like, oh, it's this clue, and I would find it, and there was still so many clues to go, like to finally get to the end of this movie. It really can't be overstated how long this film was.
Yeah.
And considering for every single clue they find like a giant diamond or some shit as well.
Oh yeah,
And
like,
then-
it's worth pursuing. Like this treasure.
Yeah,
like I'm
for
on
sure.
Scrappy-Doo is the only one that's like keeping the train moving in that respect. Every now and like Shaggy and Scooby-Doo are like, let's leave, we want to leave, and Scrappy's like, but look at the fuck off massive diamonds.
Yeah.
Like you don't think this is worth pursuing?
Well,
like
we can
just
make
a
some
little
money
bit
here.
longer?
Yeah, how else are we going to continue going around with the mystery gang, you know?
Yeah, ghost hunting together. Yeah, exactly.
That was it. The revelation of this is how they're funding Mystery
Yeah.
Inc. Like, here it is. They were struggling,
There you go.
students, and now they're millionaires.
I mean, they're definitely blood diamonds.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, there's no way they came from anything good.
There's a reason it was being hidden in the house, and it wasn't like somewhere normal.
I've literally just had a massive revelation about this movie, and I'm sorry to spoil it so soon, but
Please.
So like at the end, right? You get the bit where they're like, "Oh, where is the entire treasure is in the fireplace." And to be honest, if I saw a fireplace with a big fuck off lever on it, I'd probably
that was a great. They're like, how do we get in? Oh,
Yeah,
probably the
it's-
lever. That'll
yeah.
okay.
And so, like, they pull it and all the gold falls out of the fireplace, right? But I just remembered, so earlier in the episode, there's the bit where they go up to the chimney, and the guy in the skeleton costume is in the chimney waiting to scare them. How did he not notice?
Or maybe he like climbed the roof and then hopped in the chimney.
He didn't
instead
realize
of going
he was
up
standing.
the chimney.
Yeah, he's like hops over. He's like, "Oh, I'm standing on a bunch of solid
Yeah.
gold, but okay, whatever."
It's dark. He can't tell. He must have thought it was coal.
Yeah, he's blind in the costume as well. He probably can't see very well.
Shiny
He
little
doesn't know what
gold.
he's doing.
The Boo brothers can't
this-
tell what gold is either because they were in the chimney too.
Yep.
Which, you know, actual
Oh,
ghosts.
Yeah.
The Boo Brothers absolutely wouldn't tell them. If they found the gold, they'd be like,
No.
"Oh, this is." They don't know why they're there. The Boo Brothers
Oh,
at no
the-
point don't know why they're there.
I was so baffled by the Boo brothers were they were the Three Stooges. Like they were a weird play on the Three Stooges, which is just the most baffling shit because like what kid in the 80s like is like, oh, they're being Larry, Curly, and Moe or whatever. Like it was just such a weird, very like drawn out reference that as a kid, I'd completely blocked all of the Boo Brothers elements of this movie. I didn't remember them because they were so bad. Yeah.
It's not hard. Like they're not in the film. They are important to the story once.
Yeah.
And that is it.
They were so annoying.
They were so annoying.
Mostly because they just did nothing. It was. I was just like, why are they?
They just kept
like, when are they going to become relevant? Like,
yeah,
right at the end.
at the end, and I'm like, I really didn't need. What was it? About 80 minutes of Boo Brothers. I was really hoping it was going to be like a Blues Brothers.
Yeah. That would have been great. But no, it was a baffling Three Stooges reference. And like, do you think this movie, they were like, it needs to be like, some of the scenes were so, you were like, that's where it's going to end. And then it would keep going. And you're like, that's where it's going to end. And then it was keep going. It's like they had like a time limit to fill. And they were just like,
it's really padded out.
We gotta just keep going.
That scene with Shaggy where he's like, nobody's following me at all. And
my
following
God.
It went for so long.
Yeah.
Nobody's following
like
me.
a
I just
solid
positive
minute.
thinking.
So obviously we
God.
find out, as per usual, the spooky ghost is a man.
Yep.
Spoilers, it's the sheriff's brother.
Yep. Never thought.
Well,
Never thought.
do we ever see the sheriff without the mustache?
Nah.
Is that supposed to be a clue? I can't remember. I lost.
I don't remember.
I lost the ability to think at some point.
Yeah. Stop caring about this film.
However, it does also go down the similar route to like the live action movies, where it's like, but ghosts are still real.
Yeah, ghosts are real.
There are still ghosts in it, and I'm like, well, that's
absolutely
weird, because I'm sure that's not normal for. It's always like the mystery once it's uncovered is always pretty like, oh, it's just special effects or it's a costume.
For sure. But then they also love to do a thing where there's just no feasible, like something I love about the old, certainly the Scooby-Doo where I use, like the first season of Scooby-Doo, is like they'll just have like incomprehensible shit, and then they'll have Velma explain it as though like, oh, it's just like a mirror and some smoke, as though that makes sense when you see like a literal bat turn into a man. And like this did kind of the same thing in a way that I really love. But also, speaking of there being real ghosts, so they might have been called the New Scooby-Doo Mysteries or Scooby-Doo and Scrappy 2. There was one series that was Scooby, Scrappy, and Shaggy only, and every monster was real in that. I always remember that one as well.
No wonder they're so scared.
Yeah,
they're the only ones who've genuinely experienced the supernatural. I think in one of them, Scooby gets turned into a frog by a witch. So like they've been there. They've lived the experience.
Yeah.
So, but I love, speaking of actual ghosts, at the very end of this movie where they're like, "Oh, Scoob, stop playing around," because as they're driving out, they see the ghost of the Confederate soldier again, and he's like, "That's not me, Raggy." And they're all just like, whoa.
Yeah. It also doesn't make sense that it was him ever, because they were in several scenes together. There's also just a giant ape in this, which best character, honestly.
The ape is an amazing side
character. I felt
character.
really sorry for the ape. He just wanted to cuddle and dance, and everyone was running away from him.
I like that he had
also
command
so
of the English
unnecessary
language.
as a character. Really didn't add anything.
No.
I thought they were going to do some sort of tie-in when, there's the scene with the bear, the really angry bear in the bear cave, because that makes geographical sense.
Yep. Don't question it.
I thought, well, they're sort of the same size and the same build. Maybe there was going to be some sort of switcheroo. No.
Or
like some sort of like Kong versus Godzilla fight kind of thing, but it's just ape versus bear.
It's really graphic.
Really upsetting to watch. I liked how this movie wasn't good, but so much of it is still wildly charming for me. The gorilla, right? Like he's an escaped gorilla, and then the guy, the caretaker, is like, "No, it's a ghost. It's the ghost of this stuffed gorilla." But it wasn't like a setup for anything, and it wasn't true. It just was like a thing that was never addressed again. It's amazing. Or like there was one part where they're like, I think the sheriff is getting in costumes and trying to scare us. And then the gorilla, who has kind of the same physical shape as the sheriff, turns up, and you're like, the sheriff's pretending to be the gorilla. But no, it's just a gorilla.
Yeah, that butler was there to cause violence and chaos. He served no other purpose rather than to just
wasn't
cause
he
a problem.
trying to let them solve the clues so that he could get the treasure afterwards? Oh no, it was the ghost. Oh,
yeah,
God.
the ghost was doing that. The butler was just doing his job and causing chaos.
The butler was really pissed off that he wasn't able to like inherit this stuff. Steal it and go away and like leave all the treasure and or start solving these clues.
Yeah,
I guess because he wasn't hungry enough to check the freezer.
Exactly. Exactly.
I thought it'd be a case of like where it was obviously movie length, it'd be there are these different ghosts, and there's like 3 or 4 different people that are all after the treasure at the same time. I thought like one of them might be the butler, one of them might be that fucking awful girl that keeps sexually assaulting Shaggy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot there were just a bunch of hillbillies in this movie
Yeah.
for no
And
reason.
The female presence of
The
the movie.
one.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
the one.
The one.
And like they all look like they don't belong in a Scooby-Doo cartoon anyway. They're like
No.
they're all so differently animated.
Yeah.
They look
Yeah.
so weird.
I did like the amount of times it felt like Shaggy was in real physical danger, though. Like it wasn't. I'm like, he's gonna get shot. That's so scary.
Yeah.
Get out of there, Shaggy.
Yeah, that guy wasn't just like, oh, Shaggy's like, no, he's gonna kill him. If he
I'm
gets
gonna
near
kill
him,
you.
he's gonna kill him because of what? He is with his sister.
Yeah, because
Who
it's
can
fancy
say?
Maggie.
Yeah.
It's because he's a descendant of the
Oh, I
slave
know.
owners.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
a
exactly.
It turns out we
Is it
should.
Beauregard?
Beauregard. There's
yeah.
a feud. That's
Yeah.
what's happening.
Maybe we
It's a
should be
classic
on.
feud.
We should be on the other hillbilly side. They're like
Yeah, on-
anti-slavery.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
They're the
just
good
Brock
guys
Morton, or
somehow.
whatever his name was.
Is it a problematic? Would you say describe it as a problematic representation of?
I think so. I think it was not. I think you could say it's not a charitable depiction of a Southern person. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't call it kind. None of them had shoes on, so like,
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, no, it's not great.
I also got the feeling. So with the Boo Brothers, right? I thought, and until I watched it this time, I still believed that the Boo Brothers were Casper, the Friendly Ghost's older brothers. I just had that in my head the whole time.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're
And
the
then
same
upon
sort of
rewatch-
shape. Like-
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh yeah, like big buff one, kind of rounder one, skinny sneedly one. That's your trio. And the trio of ghosts is exactly the same. But no, these are just completely different guys.
Is
That's
that
a
because
bombshell.
the Casper's brothers are based off of the Three Stooges? Like as like
Oh,
a
yeah, I
vague
bet-
reference.
I bet you're right. I
Is
bet
that-
you're right. I
yeah.
bet that's what it is.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
like, yeah.
I'm just looking at the old animated brothers.
Yeah.
3 Ghost Brothers, and they are very similar. Yeah, you've got like
Yeah.
fat one, tall one, and
Yeah, that's the Three
Toothy
Stooges. That's the Stooges. That is.
Yeah.
That's
Turns out-
any trio of
Any trio
goofballs.
like that. Yeah.
That's what they look like. Yeah, for
any
sure.
3 ghosts.
I like this was produced as a part of like Hanna-Barbera were releasing like a bunch of movies based on their like franchises, so like or their IPs. Like so, Scooby-Doo had one, the Jetsons had one, Yogi Bear had a couple, and Scooby-Doo had 3. So they had this one, which was the one that kicked it off. Then they had Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, which I think everyone remembers. That's the iconic Scooby-Doo movie where they go to a school with all of these like lady monsters. And then Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Do you guys remember any of the others? Or is this just like my Scooby-Doo brain? I'm like, everyone knows these. Everyone remembers Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School. That's the famous one.
I've heard of the werewolf one, but
Yeah. No.
yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of like the various TV shows, but when it was on like the kids channel, so in no discernible order, and
Yep.
never
That's fair.
knowing if I'm watching What's New Scooby-Doo or Where Are You Scooby-Doo or whatever. Just
whatever Scooby-Doo.
all I know is that
Yeah.
the latest animated versions are horrifyingly like
Yeah.
weird and a bit too sexy.
Yeah, are they? What's the
Like-
latest incarnation of Scooby-Doo?
Like, well, not Scooby. Scooby is still a dog.
Oh,
But-
I thought you were
remains
sorry.
The same level of sexy he always was.
Elmer
Everyone
has,
else
like,
has come up to meet him. Not he
Yeah,
hasn't gone
Elmer's
down
got
to
like
meet
a
them.
really short skirt and like
Oh.
a sort of trendier jumper.
Ah, so they're following
Huh.
the Scooby-Doo live-action movie.
Is that Scooby-Doo and Guess Who? The one where they were like, we're going to introduce like modern day celebrity guest stars? I think that might have been it.
That's
Where they were
great.
like, it's a great idea. I didn't watch it and I really should have, but it's a great idea because they did that back in the day all the time, which I guess maybe in a way the Boo Brothers being the Three Stooges was meant to be. Honestly, who knows? But it would be great to get some idea of what anyone was thinking when they made this, you know?
They
That
were.
would be-
We know what they were thinking. They were thinking we need to make a 1.5 hour movie. So they wrote the plot of he needs to find this treasure in this Confederate general's house, and then they just kept throwing characters at it until it became an hour and a half.
Well, I feel like they had this plot for what was going to be a 20-minute episode, in like their backlog of possibilities.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh,
they made
fuck it,
that.
that one will do. We've got this. We've got to get this out in 3 weeks. Get
Let's
the
just
animators on
expand it."
overtime. Don't worry about the writers. Like, just okay. This animator wants to do some more ghosts. Cool. Let them practice for Casper.
It is. I guess you can imagine like a situation where they had like the episode ready as like a basic, like a 20-minute one, and they're like, and he solves like 3 clues to get the treasure, and they're like, just add 8 more clues.
Add 8 more
That'll
clues.
do.
The Boo brothers weren't part of it
longer.
either.
They were like, how do we extend it? Oh, we add 3. We had the 3 Stooges as ghosts. Okay, good.
Yeah,
that's an extra
Perfect.
20 minutes. We need some more. How about a gorilla?
Yeah, perfect. There's no bad ideas. Okay, you're not allowed. No bad ideas in a brainstorm, and every bad idea will be put on the screen.
Yeah. They, Gremlins 2'd it. They just went, everything you say, good.
Throw it all in the big melting pot. Yeah.
How do we make this episode last a lot longer? Let's get rid of the 3 most competent characters in the group.
Yeah.
Which true.
Like that was something that kept hitting me throughout. Is as the audience, you're meant to be like, oh, Scrappy and Scooby are their own characters. Shaggy isn't alone in this place, and then they're dogs.
Yeah,
you remember that they're
true.
dogs. Shaggy is on his own in this house.
Yeah, Shaggy's dealing with it alone, and he never goes to the other human characters for help.
No,
really, he'll just stick with his
he
2
does call the police,
alive
but
dogs.
The police, is he a sheriff or a police officer? He's
I think
pretty useless.
Did you get the vibe that the sheriff was based off someone? Like someone that was like a relevant.
Yeah, or maybe also
like
someone with piles from the way he was standing all the time.
He had a
like,
crazy
arse
posture.
out, legs apart.
Yeah. The weirdest thing with that character was the scene where, like, I think it's the ape scares him and he runs away and all of his clothes fall off as he does. And it's just like a split second. And I was like, why?
Why did that happen? Something that bugged me, right? So there are many ghosts in Scooby-Doo Meets the Boo Brothers. There's the skeleton ghost. There's a werewolf ghost. There's a Confederate soldier ghost. There's a headless horseman ghost. There's also a bear and a gorilla, but I don't think they're ghosts. Now, the Confederate soldier ghost sounds heaps like the sheriff, right?
Yep.
But the skeleton ghost doesn't have a southern accent. He's got like a normal, almost fancy voice, like the housekeeper, the butler. So I kept, at the end, I was like, surely the reveal is, the whole time I've been the housekeeper trying to get my treasure. And then they're like, but who's the Confederate ghost? And then the sheriff reveals that it's him. And we're like, oh, they were in cahoots the whole time. But
exactly. that would have made more sense.
They set that reveal up. It's crazy that they don't pay it off.
No.
It's also a bit strange that there's, I guess, 2+ different versions of what ghosts can be like in this film, because, like, obviously you have the kooky, spooky Casper the Friendly Ghosts that look like ghosts, can change shape and size and go through walls and all that kind of thing. You have spooky haunted skeleton that turns out to be a man in a costume, which is fine.
Just
and then like the other like the Confederate bloke and the headless horseman. Well, not the headless horseman, because that one turns out to be animatronic, doesn't it?
No, the horse.
Yeah.
The horse
animatronic.
does, but the headless bloke isn't.
And the
I
wolf is
thought
never
they said he was a
explained.
dummy. I thought they said that it wasn't real.
No, I think the horse. I don't remember the person wasn't. I can't remember.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. No, I think you're right. The
So they throw
headless
the dummy
horseman,
off it, and they're like, "Oh, it's just a dummy," and they throw it on the ground.
and then they give it to the gorilla in the end.
Yeah, because the gorilla gets to ride the horse.
Yeah.
The gorilla loves riding a horse, obviously.
Yeah.
This
And
is
that's all
basic
you get.
solution.
That's the wrap up you get for the gorilla as well, isn't it? That he's happy on his little animatronic horse. He doesn't go back to the circus.
No, goodness
there's
no.
no like, further. That's the end of his story.
How awesome to be in the writer's room for this movie. Because you're like, what are we going to do with the gorilla? And someone's like, okay, what about this? Let me just pitch it. No bad ideas. Scrappy-Doo gives him the horse.
Yeah,
I was like,
Yep.
we're making magic.
Scrappy-Doo leaned, because that was such an ominous scene where Scrappy-Doo leaned in and whispered what he was going to give the gorilla, and that they were going to keep it a big secret for a long time, and then 10 seconds later, we gave him the horse.
It was spectacular.
Like some weird trade of, sorry, I promised the gorilla all of the gold.
Yeah. You'd think that they could They could do
Sorry.
something with that. Yeah.
The gorilla. I promised the gorilla a cut, and the gorilla
Yeah.
is covered in gold.
They're a winged out gorilla.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And in the end, they give all that gold because they do find it. You're right; it's in the fireplace, and they give it to the Beauregard Orphans Fund, which
Yeah.
I guess is a great way to not make Shaggy rich.
Yeah, and
I
the
suppose.
ghosts are orphans, and they let the ghosts keep the horrible mansion. So
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can have this place to haunt, which I guess is fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Um,
Shaggy doesn't want to do up a mansion. Fair call.
no,
It's
it's just,
Unless they
expensive.
don't also
Yeah.
turn it into like an orphanage. They're like, no, we've
Yeah.
got a pre-established orphan fund. We'll put
Oh
it
yeah,
there.
that
I'm not going to
that'd
make these
be it.
poor children live in this place.
That'd
Living
be
a nightmare. Yeah.
dangerous building for an orphanage. It's got like trapdoors everywhere. There's hidden walls. There's
Your
just
car can just sink into
Yeah.
a tunnel.
Yeah.
there's weapons just underneath the ground.
Yeah, someone's been walking around leaving gunpowder everywhere.
Yeah. As they walk, and then it lights them up, but then we never really see, like, it never eventuates into much. What do you think was the longest scene in this? Because I think the scene that felt the longest for me was when the clue involved pressing the broken key on a piano, and which opened a trapdoor, or like a false wall, that they then went in, and then they got the next clue, but they were trapped, and so they were like, well, we got to get out of here. And I think the sequence from we got to get out of here, where they're like, one of the Boo brothers is like, just float through a wall. And then Scooby-Doo's like, just float through a wall. And he's like, yeah. And then Scooby-Doo tries to float through a wall, but he can't. And they're like, he can't float through a wall. He's a ghost. You just got to get taste, listeners, of what this scene felt like in real life. And then he goes out there and he plays the piano. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was
felt-
quite a gratuitous bit of piano playing as well.
That was,
Yeah.
and then they're like, don't play the piano, press the key. And then even when the ghost is going to press the key, he's like edging that shit, just like running his finger around the key, not tapping it. It killed me. Yeah.
Gotta get the runtime up.
They gotta make up those minutes somehow.
Yeah,
And still,
Every scene was super padded. Like, even them just, I guess I still had enough attention span at the start, but looking back, just them getting to the sodding mansion takes forever.
True.
And
Yeah,
like,
they
them
like
getting
this-
lost. They have that TV trope style squabble about directions, which was quite funny. I quite enjoyed that bit, but only the first like 20 seconds of it. And
Well, I
then,
think,
they meet
yeah,
the
like-
sheriff, and the sheriff takes ages to like actually do anything or say anything, and then they're lost, but they still have to drive all the way down this. It just took so long, and it's like, you've already told us where they're going.
I think you're right in that, like, it shows you how, like, 20 minutes to even 10 minutes, I think, is the length of like an old Scooby-Doo cartoon. That's the perfect amount of time to spend with these people. You'll laugh, you'll see some spooky backgrounds, and then you're gone. But we're here for an hour and a half. You're like, I wish everyone
Especially
would
when you've
shut
only got
up.
a third of the cast as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
locked in with 3 characters. One of them is Scrappy Doo, who
Mhm.
like wasn't as annoying in this film because he was the
True.
only one actually doing anything.
Yeah,
The
he
re-
was,
the
I
other
was
Yeah.
actually quite relieved because he was the one that was actually moving the plot.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be irritating, and as we learned,
Yeah.
a piss kink dog
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
original Scooby-Doo film.
He was cute as well. I actually really liked the bits where like Scooby picks him up like a little baby and like grabs him and like gets him in the car or whatever. And you remember that Scooby, like Scrappy Doo, is a really tiny little baby dog.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
that
mean
is
at the
cute.
beginning when they drive off and then
Yeah.
realise they forgot Scrappy?
Yeah, like the animation in this was shockingly nice in places as well. I
Yeah,
thought
bits
I
of it
liked when
okay.
they were like driving the car, which was just like a weird Jeep, which is funny.
Yep.
Not the Mystery Machine, some other shit. But
have
when
their
the car
logo
they
on.
were driving, they were like trying to get away, and the car moved really fluidly, like it was kind of made of jelly. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it
the
had a nice
backgrounds
rubber
are-
leg kind of bouncy tires.
Absolutely. The backgrounds are always beautiful in like any of these old Scooby, or I always find them beautiful. Any of the old Scooby-Doos where they have the painted backgrounds that all of those like flat cells are being animated on top of. They're always nice. And
Like, you can always tell which bits are going to be interacted with because they look very different to
Yeah.
the background.
That's a good example.
absolutely.
I got caught out at some points actually because there were definitely scenes where they had the painted bit, but then there would be one bit that was very obviously animated on top, and then nothing would happen with that.
Yep.
It was just like, oh, okay, did they cut something there, and they just had to like fill in
Yeah.
the hole in each.
How crazy is it to think that there was anything left on the cutting room floor for this movie?
Oh, this
It was
is
crazy
2
thing.
hours to start.
It was just all the weird Confederate stuff that they were like, we need to get rid of it.
Not too far on this.
They,
Yeah.
they went really
Yeah.
hard on the Confederate early, and then they got rid of it all.
Yeah, look, even in 1986, let's backpedal on that somewhat. Yeah.
So one thing that did stand out to me as a little bit strange was, I mean, lots of it, but the penny farthing that the
That was so good.
Yeah.
Right.
What was going on there?
Was
I
it
love
like,
it so
look, we've
much.
already got a horse. You can't have a horse. And they're
Well, no,
like,
'cause
okay, we can't put
they-
him on a bike because that wouldn't be accurate.
They
Yeah,
got
but-
rid of
but-
the horse. Like they didn't have the horse at that point. I think
Oh.
like they discovered it and like turned it off at
Oh,
that
so
point.
he-
But they
He
couldn't have an
needed
actual
something.
ghost horse, is what I'm
No.
saying.
Yeah.
Well,
So
no, 'cause
instead-
They'd already had the animatronic horse, so they're like, no, you have to have something else.
Yeah, the Confederate
Hmm.
soldier, isn't that the sheriff?
yeah,
Yeah,
but he wasn't
so
on.
He's on a penny
Yeah.
farthing.
Well, it should be.
Yeah.
No, I thought
Yeah.
he was a ghost. I thought that the
No, the Confederate. There was
skeleton-
also a Confederate
also-
soldier ghost.
Yeah, there was also a ghost.
Or
think-
actually, maybe you're right, and he was only the skeleton.
I thought he
Because
was
they
only
do
the
s-
skeleton because the other one has has like big yellow eyes
Yeah.
and they don't take the mask
Yeah.
off him at
The,
any point.
the only time they take the mask off is when they're like, it was Scooby, and it's like, that makes no sense.
But then why
Yeah,
is there
well-
a Confederate costume and not the Confederate?
But then at the end, they
Yeah,
almost
'cause-
drive into it.
I think
'Cause I
there's
thought they were
also
like-
a ghost.
Yeah, no, I don't know, because they're like, how is the sheriff? How did he be so many different people? And I was that is the moment where I was like,
Yeah.
ah ha ha, the housekeeper as well. But then no, you're right. Scooby-Doo just comes out in a Confederate costume. Like that explains anything.
Yeah, they just find it in like the trunk in the attic or the cellar or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, this is what was going on instead. But yeah, maybe there was a ghost, and maybe that was just a Confederate soldier's clothes.
And-
I don't know.
And like the skeleton ghost only shows up at the point where they go to the chimney in the first place, which spends like a good 2 minutes just yeeting bricks off of itself.
Yeah, that was great. I love those bricks just continually falling. You're like, this house is just falling to shit. Like, and he was like, I'd love a Scooby-Doo skeleton. They've got such good vibes.
It was
It's great.
so annoying that it didn't make any noise. Every time it appeared, I wanted it to go.
Yeah. Why did we all accept that that's the noise a skeleton would
Well,
make?
look at the shape of
Like,
its
what-
face. That's the shape that's the noise that mouth makes. It goes.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
It's skeletal.
I think it's
Yeah.
because otherwise it's
Yeah.
just clacking its teeth together, and that's too weird.
really
Imagine it just comes up and it's just like, oh no.
That's even scarier. That's very upsetting. So like it wants to eat me, but like, what is it getting out of it? You know what I mean? What's the benefit
Yeah,
to
also
the skeleton?
the ghosts eat food.
Yeah, they have their little
that
pie.
was upsetting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, but how and why? You're dead. You don't
Yeah.
need to eat.
A thing I thought was weird as well, and I don't know if you guys clocked this, but so when they're like, we need a ghost exterminator, and they call the Boo Brothers the first time, in the book that Scrappy has open, there's the Ghostbusters logo,
Yep.
and I was like, why?
It's all in the same universe. It all happens in the same universe.
Yeah, but I'm like, man, if they'd brought it to Ghostbusters, which was a cartoon at the time,
Yeah.
surely that would have been like a much better, more
That's-
reasonable. But no,
That's gonna be the
Boo Brothers.
the shocking twist in the new Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife, is the live-action Scooby-Doo cast show up.
Yeah. They do the plot of Scooby-Doo and the Boo Brothers as if they had called the Ghostbusters instead.
Imagine that would roll.
Just
I would be so
just
down for
halfway
that.
through, like the mystery machine just shows up, and it's just like fucking. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good because people would be like, "This is not at all the movie that I was promised."
No.
But I, in the audience, would be overjoyed at what
Yeah.
I was receiving.
You and like 2 other people would be so excited.
They're doing Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers. They're doing Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers. I would love to know. I'd love to be able to go back to like 7-year-old Jackson and be like, "What do you like about this movie?
Yeah,
Like, what bits are appealing to you?"
I want
I
to know
do-
what
'cause
you
I-
found scary as well. Like which
Yeah,
bits
no.
Yeah.
genuinely
Scary
creeped you
bits.
out.
There were scary,
What
but
do
there
you
were
reckon?
like little jump scares and little like
That's
spooky,
true.
spooky bits. If you're
It's
a
got
kid.
spooky music, I guess, as
Yeah.
well. It's got that like eerie you know, kind of music.
Shaggy and Scooby let you know when to be scared as well.
That's true.
Might be
They get
helpful for a
scared. It's funny to be a child and be like, I'm not brave like Scrappy-Doo. I, like Shaggy and Scooby, I am a coward, yes. I fear what's happening.
Although Shaggy kind of sidesteps out of scared and just gets really angry during this film, he gets so mad and is just screaming at people.
Yeah, there's like far less of him just being like, time to get away, zoinks. And more of him being like, I hate it here. I want to go home. I'm having the worst time.
I'm wearing the wrong t-shirt. I want to go home and get changed.
I knew today. It was a bad beginning when I woke up this morning and put on my other t-shirt. I knew it was going to be bad.
You asked at the beginning, that's what the red t-shirt is. It's Angry Shaggy. There's Angry Shaggy and there's Scared Shaggy. This is Angry Shaggy.
Those are his two varieties. Yeah.
He wears the red shirt to let the rest of the team know how he's feeling that day.
Yeah, exactly. That's how he communicates it.
Or is this just what Shaggy is like while we're looking at the rest of the team? Is they're all like, let's discover the mystery, and Shaggy's just sat there complaining.
Like, I wish I was at home. I hate this. Why can't we hang out like normal teenagers? What are we doing with our lives?
Why do always goes, you're a dog. I'm gonna take you to a dog park.
Oh, actually, one thing that was creepy was the shadow that follows them.
Yeah,
and you can't always tell which one it is. And I was like, that's a little bit scary because obviously, like, shadows do exist in real life. So
the shadow looked like either the Confederate ghost or the fucking sheriff, and that's why I thought it was the sheriff.
And sometimes it looks like the butler as well, and sometimes the butler is listening in. So I thought that it was the butler because they all have the same weird short leg, bum out, bow leg.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the butler's
sunglasses.
Please. Yeah, well, I like his sunglasses, but I also liked his horrible little laugh because it was so inappropriate and just clearly they had a bad time. Where he'd be like, you'd be like, you went on a little too long. Nothing's funny. No jokes are being told. Please go away. Yeah. Also, I liked early on the sheriff's like, nobody lives at the mansion. And then they get there and they're like, one guy lives at the mansion. I guess. And that Confederate soldier must have died pretty recently, which is crazy. What is the timeline here?
150-year-old man.
Is it? I thought that it was the ghost was like maybe his grandfather or great grandfather rather than being the most recent.
Well, no, don't they say that like his dad was a Confederate general or something?
Maybe they do. Like Shaggy's dad.
Well, yeah, no, the uncle was a Confederate soldier.
Yeah. I think they do. I think
Uncle Colonel Beauregard died and left in the country estate. So I'm reading the Wikipedia.
Beautiful.
Which is surprisingly, it's long for a
they
got all of the clues there.
I was trying to work out if this film was a success or not because
any...
No, I have no idea. And the only reason I care so much is because for some reason every film we've talked about where people are like, I love this film when I was a kid, it was amazing, always a flop. Like it ruined something.
That rules.
Consistent. It's amazing how consistent it is that those films where you're like, I remember that being good. You're like, well, it killed that industry.
Maybe this is the film that killed Scrappy-Doo.
Well, no,
isn't it
a lot more. I think this is a really successful film.
I think it did well. Well, because it kicked off the Ghoul School and the Reluctant Werewolf, and you know, I mean, hey, clearly it excited me as a kid. It must have done the same to others. I was just looking up the IMDb trivia for this, and like most of it is stuff we know. They're like the Boo Brothers were based on like the Three Stooges or whatever. But I really like it's like Shaggy's truck in quotation marks is actually a mid-1980s Suzuki Samurai.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the best part.
I love when there's trivia like that where it's like, cool, one person probably found this interesting and had to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically trivia. You are right. I think the best part about IMDb, if you're on the website and you want to look it up, there is a parental guidance section where parents go in and write out like, is there violence? And I remember looking it up for this, and it's always like, because it's always some like really hyper protective parent who is like, there was slapstick comedy, there was slapstick violence, and
no slapstick comedy.
Yeah. There was a girl trying to take Shaggy's.
Oh yeah, no, the parents wouldn't be impressed with that girl's lustrous behavior.
And her lack of clothing.
She is so thirsty.
Yeah.
She's so thirsty for Shaggy, who clearly does not want any of it. He's not
No.
interested a tiny bit, which is characterization that I really like Mystery Inc. continued. They're like, Shaggy's largely asexual. Don't worry about it. He likes sandwiches and Scooby-Doo. That's all he cares about.
His
You
name
can see
is
the beginnings
not
of it here.
literal in any way.
Yeah, exactly. Despite the name, yeah.
What is uncomfortable during this though is Scrappy keeps calling him Shag, and it's so upsetting. Every time he says it, it like got to me. They kept going, "Okay, Shag."
Oh, I
stop
mean,
it."
with Scrappy's weird piss kink, I'm surprised he didn't go for the hillbilly girl either.
I feel like
this.
I was gonna say, I feel like we should explain the Kid Piss King thing.
Oh yeah, from the first live action Scooby-Doo
Yeah.
movie where he
I
pisses on
recall, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That is burned into my mind.
Cool. I'm glad it
So-
wasn't just us that picked that up as a weird group of
Yeah.
people.
Oh no, of course. It's really the first live action Scooby-Doo movie is so great in the way they're like, yeah, fuck this dog. Like, no, we hate him. He sucks. And like, I can't think of any other franchise that has gone back and been like, because it's not like that appeared anywhere in any of these Scooby-Doo cartoons. This hatred for Scrappy-Doo. It's literally just like what fan opinion was, and the movie's like, yeah, fuck him, and that's great. Not enough movies are doing that.
We killed this character.
Yeah, we killed him. He's a little nightmare dog, and I mean they were right to do so. It's very vindicating to see Scrappy-Doo get killed or whatever in that movie.
Get big and then killed.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, no, that film's great. That film is still one of the top films we've talked about. And it will
I
be
reckon
forever.
personally I like the second one more though, but it's got
Yeah,
more
I'm not
references
wrong.
to old
No,
Scooby-Doo.
you're wrong.
It's got
no,
more old Scooby-Doo references. It's got the eyeball guys from Atlantis, the ice cream ghost.
This is what
Scooby and
I
Shaggy
argued.
become disco men for a bit for some reason.
I argued that I personally prefer the second one as well, and I almost got kicked off of that episode.
Wow.
It's like, cool.
Well, I'm on your side.
Oh,
It
awesome, thank
rolls.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hillbillies were a very strange addition to this that I'd completely blocked from my mind. I did not remember them in the slightest. They clearly also though were added just to have more. It was more padding. Like that's why they were there. To you're like, we got to do something else. Also, there's some hillbillies trying to kill Shaggy. Don't worry about it.
Well, one of
That's
them's trying to
fine.
kill him. One of them's trying to fuck him.
Trying to make sweet love to him. Yeah, that's true.
Was there a third hillbilly at one point early on as well that disappeared?
Well, there's a moment where they're like, "Look out! There's a Beauregard here, boys!" And then you just get a shot of the swamp, and they're like, "We're
They're
gonna
all
fucking
shooting
kill
bullets in
Shaggy."
the air and getting excited.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
And
is
Shaggy
a very
runs, which is
non-lethal gun this guy has.
that is true.
Apart
That's it.
from the sheriff's hat and belt, and I guess that shows the time where you could shoot at a sheriff's
At a
hat and
cop.
belt and live to tell the tale.
They were friends. Clearly, there was like a moment where he's like, "Yeah, I'm writing you a citation.
See,
Yeah.
Don't worry."
that's why
For
I
shooting
thought
up
one
my
of the
belt, you're getting 2 tickets. It's like, isn't that just
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I thought one of the hillbillies would be one of the ghosts as well, and they're like all like trying to do things at the same time to get this treasure.
Yeah,
It would
that
have
would have
been
made
great.
it.
There's
That would
no
have been great
tying
if they
in.
then.
There's no tying in for these extra characters.
No,
They don't.
no.
They don't resolve or have anything like
Well,
to do
it's-
with the plot.
It's because they finished the main animation and then they had to just add in these extra scenes.
Yeah. But it's so on brand for old Scooby-Doo. So old Scooby-Doo would have scenes where the Mystery Inc. are like chatting to the person who's giving them their inciting incident where they're like, "Oh, there's lights in the sky over by the airfield." And then you would get like a 3-minute shot of Scooby and a baby chicken, and they would do some shit together, and then it would be over. But it would take up so much of the runtime of the episode. Or like the amount of times in a old Scooby-Doo episode where there's like the chase scene before they capture the monster or whatever. Like those chase scenes are it's just nonsense for another 4. It's all padding. That's the trick.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo is all padding all the time.
It's padding.
There
It's
wasn't a
padding.
proper chase sequence in this, though, was there? Like I
That's
was
true, good
waiting for
point.
that, like down the corridor, and they all go through the different doors and out other doors.
Yeah, there was none of
That
that.
didn't
That's
happen, and
disappointing.
it's strange because like there was definitely time for it to happen.
But then, like, who do
Yeah.
you have chase who? Because the
Mm.
villains are all
Well-
over the place.
Well, they
Mm,
could be
and-
they could be chasing the butler who's stolen the jewels, but also running away from the gorilla, the ghost,
Yeah.
or the other ghost.
Or the
You
Boo
could have a
Brothers.
scene-
Or the Boo Brothers.
Boo Brothers.
Ah,
Or the
shit, yeah, we
Hillbillies.
forgot about
Or
the
the
Boo
Hillbillies.
Brothers for a minute there.
Or maybe the
Easily
Just
done.
hey, the movie does it all the time, and then it's like, oh, hey,
There
here's
was
the Boo Brothers again.
There was one point where I
Yeah.
thought the Boo Brothers were going to show up, and that's when Shaggy's truck just drives itself down. I was like, cool, the Boo
Oh, yeah.
Brothers have come to save them. And I even wrote in my notes, like, taps Shaggy's truck, this bad boy can fit so many ghosts in it. And no, it was remote control for some
Yeah,
reason.
there's a remote control by a
For
thing that
what?
Why?
For what?
I did
Who-
love the technology for that remote control car just being like this little like disc that
Yeah.
you put on the
yeah,
car.
It's
plug it in.
Yeah.
shit like that
Yeah.
as well. There's just
Yeah.
a steamroller in the underground
Oh.
tunnel at one point.
That was my favorite
Yeah.
part. I
And we
really
were
like.
oh no! It's going in like the bright red steamroller. I'm like, that's gonna
It's
take
so,
a
like-
while to get there. And hadn't they just shown a shot where like half of the path had collapsed anyway?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like,
they were not
That
in
steamroller's
danger.
not
Yeah.
gonna bridge that gap.
no, that's why you get the steamroller, big wheel. It's more
Yeah.
stable, got more ground to stand on.
What was the function of the remote control? Like from the ghost, what was the sheriff?
I-
What was he trying to run them down? Was
I-
that the
Just-
plan?
just
Was he
stop
trying
them
to
from leaving?
Or to save them so they would finish figuring out the clues.
Yeah.
I
I
guess.
think it's like
Ah.
to sort of keep because he obviously is an idiot or illiterate or
Yeah.
whatever because he can't work out these clues and at no point
No.
did he stumble across these clues that weren't very well hidden. So he was probably like, if I get rid of the car, they have to stay here.
Yeah, that's clever. But then he didn't, because like the car sinks into the mud, right?
Yeah.
Into a cave,
Yeah,
and
falls
then he
into
puts
cave.
the remote control on it. When they're not going anywhere. But then when they're in the cave, he remote controls the car around some. I mean, like, I don't know why I'm trying to figure it out.
No.
It's actually not. It's actually not a puzzle because there is no solution.
I guess it's a new way to try and kill them because
Yeah.
at that point
I-
they finished the puzzle. That was the last clue.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
don't
That's true. So
know.
he's like, I'm just gonna end
You
them
gotta
so I can
kill
get to
them.
the fireplace first. And then it's funny because the way he gets got is that the gold falls on him and traps him. So like,
Yeah.
none of it was worth anything
Yeah,
because
none
even
of
if
it
he had the
mattered.
clues, he'd have gotten killed by his own jewels. You know,
He might have
Phenomenal.
done it by himself. He might have been able to dig his way out eventually.
that's true.
It-
That's true.
it's
Given
also
enough
very-
time.
Very upsetting that they keep saying like we're gonna find the family jewel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It's
like-
meat and two veg.
You talking balls? You talking balls, Scooby-Doo? Is that what's happening here?
Maybe what you'd have thought one of the writers would be like, I know it's a kids' film, but we can't keep saying
Yeah, let's say the Beauregard fortune.
Yeah.
No, family jewels.
it's the family
Isn't,
jewel.
isn't that the fortune from the series Unfortunate Events?
Yeah.
Is that the same
Oh,
name?
yeah,
That's
that's right.
Baudelaire.
Yeah,
Baudelaire.
Ah,
Yeah, sorry.
fancy sounding B word in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Long B surname.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there were. I know we've slated the film a lot, but there were some cute little bits. In it.
Yeah.
I really liked the little scene where one of the ghosts, for whatever reason, gets really little and is breakdancing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
That
was
bit was
good.
really cute. That made me smile. And there was the odd line that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Shaggy calling Scooby a wimp, and he's like, yeah, an alive wimp.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I liked all the bits with the ape as well, where he's just giving Scooby Doo pats. He's just like, oh, he's a good little doggy.
Oh yeah, that,
Yeah, I liked when the party that the Boo brothers were holding. That was fun. That was just like a fun kind of scene.
And Shaggy just
Yeah.
goes up and smashes the record.
Yeah,
4 in the
he's like,
fucking
"No."
morning.
Go to bed. Yeah.
Also,
That was
also, I
pretty
like
good.
the I guess bravery / laziness of having all the ghost names rhyme, but
Yeah.
then they clearly ran out of ideas for ghosts in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. They're like, I don't know, hide and seeko, and
They call him
I-
his
Rico was pretty
ghoul
good.
friend as well.
I quite like there was like a point where clearly Shaggy and Scooby got as sick of the Boo brothers as we, the viewing audience, were. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
He was like, "Those fucking guys, I've had enough to hear Scooby Doo. I
Yeah.
swear to God."
I understand how the Boo brothers get rid of other ghosts now. They just
Annoy them.
irritate them away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also
Yeah.
kind of quite liked. I thought it was quite cute. The very early on when the Boo brothers are first summoned, there's that little weird ghost with like
Yeah.
sharp teeth.
The
Yeah.
tractor
I don't know
or
who-
something.
He was cute. I don't know what he was. I didn't know really what was going on in that scene. but he was cute. I guess in many ways it was kind of the perfect movie for a 7-year-old because, like, you're not paying attention. Like, you can't pay attention to any of it. You just got to kind of let it wash over you.
Oh yeah.
So, like watching it now, I think I had the same experience where I was like, I'm not picking up on a lot of this because, like, I don't know what's happening anymore.
No,
So it was nostalgic to rewatch in that way.
A 7-year-old isn't going to sit there and go, but it doesn't make sense that the sheriff was also not this other ghost because it was, you know.
I think 7-year-old me was just like, a skeleton man. And that was it. That was all I was thinking.
Yeah, I think you're just excited over the fact that it's a 90 minutes of Scooby-Doo.
Exactly.
Your favorite show. That's so great.
And
like it's like
when
watching,
I was
like the Pokemon movies. And it's like, yeah, it's really long. This is great. And
it's all like,
it's really long. I might be able to get a nap in.
Absolutely. And like, yeah, like when you're a kid, you have the time to spare. Like now, as an adult, as a nearly 30-year-old man, I was like, an hour and a half? I have chores. I have like stuff to take care of. I got things to book. But as a 7-year-old, you're like, time to get some packet of chips. This is my evening.
I just got a new computer and I just installed a new game and then I had to sit and watch this film for 90 minutes with like this game I absolutely love, just sitting on the computer doing nothing. And I'm like,
yeah, great, loving Scooby-Doo and this big gorilla.
I made my partner watch it and
good.
I gave him the option several times beforehand. Like, look, I'm quite happy to just watch this on my laptop with my headphones, and you don't, because I was saying like I don't know how good this film is because some Scooby-Doo films are great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I wasn't expecting it to be that bad.
Oh yeah.
But like, yeah, the one quote I got from Jim was, "It's making me angry how bad this is." And he was lying on the sofa with like just his head in his hands, like, how is this not over?
Yeah, it just kept going.
Yeah. More than anything else, it somehow went on forever. Like somehow it felt like it went longer than an hour and a half, you know? It stole years from our lives, really.
It really did feel long.
I would be interested to watch like Ghoul School and The Reluctant Werewolf to see if they dragged for like an equal amount of time. Like, obviously I won't.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Apparently they're good. Like, this is the bad from like all of the stuff I saw about it and I've read about it. Not that I've done a lot of reading on this. But, like, half a YouTube video that I watched this morning, they're like, the other two are fine. This one is awful.
Are the other two just Scoobs and Shag again?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
They get hired at
to make to be like, we're just gonna have. Is it like? Do you think they were trying to see if they can get a spin-off where they don't have to pay the other actors?
Maybe, or maybe they're like, you know, that classic thing where you're like, oh, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are quote unquote the funny ones. So like, what if it was all them all the time? But you're like, no, they need to be grounded by, you know, competent people all around them or whatever for it to be even close to entertaining. Apparently, Ghoul School is 92 minutes long, so it's also a fucking marathon to watch. But but I've heard that
today I'm not gonna.
Mostly
play video games, but
never gonna watch it.
No, never in my life.
Cool.
But it was nice to rewatch this.
So Jackson, you had this film on tape when you were a kid.
Yeah, I think I had like a cassette, like a VHS of it that I just rewatched again and again.
Did your parents hate this film?
I think they probably didn't watch it with me. I think they would have just done other stuff and just plunked me down in front of it and been like, "That's him for an hour and a half." Like time to get it, like you were saying, time to get a nap in where I don't have to pay attention to my kid. But then I probably would have come into them and been like, "I'm scared of ghosts now." And they would have
that's what I mean.
Fucking VHS. God damn it! It's put the fear of ghosts into him again.
Because sometimes you hear about those like, oh, my VHS went missing when I was a kid, and now I realize that my parents threw it away.
Like, something that I didn't real like. So me and my partner have been doing a thing because we're in lockdown at the moment, where we watch like old movies like this from our childhood that we remember really loving, and we kind of swap. So like, I'll watch.
Yeah,
that's fun. I'm like.
Do a podcast.
Yeah, someone should turn it into a podcast. That's I reckon.
Sounds interesting.
But I think it'll do well. But something we're noticing is that like some animated movies we loved as kids, and I'm sure you've come across this, chatted people. you're like, there's just like bits of it that you remember loving as a kid.
Mhm.
Like nothing exciting happens, nothing specific happens, just like a bit of animation or something happens where you're like, yeah, like your little 10-year-old goblin brain is like, that bird poked its head out of that lump of snow and nothing could be better in the world. I could just watch that on a loop. But there's none of that in this movie. There's nothing in this movie that I'm like, yeah, that bit, it's good. That bit's what I want. There's nothing.
The modern day equivalent is like where the bits of the films that get put into like GIFs that everyone uses.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Never seen a
True.
GIF of this film.
Yeah.
No, good luck finding one.
It's
for the Twitter
ungiffable.
post.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I guess out of 10 then, how many unsolved actual ghosts would you give this movie?
Okay. I still have a lot of love for it from a pure, like really pure nostalgia level, but there's nothing building really on top of that. Like my baseline of like maybe 2 unsolved actual ghosts, and like if it was a good film, it would be like, oh well, let's build on that baseline of nostalgia, but nothing really is redeemable otherwise. So I'm going to give it probably 2 unsolved actual ghosts out of 10
Wow.
for Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers. I know, which is pretty grim. Maybe
Yeah.
3 because I think the backgrounds are really pretty. So 3 for atmosphere.
I was gonna go with 3 unneeded extra characters. They're called the Boo Brothers. Yeah. Because it is a nothing film. It is like there's nothing happens. So much of it nothing happens, and then one thing happens, and then it's over. And all of these extra characters that don't do anything. But it is still a Scooby-Doo animation, and Scooby-Doo animation is good.
Exactly.
The actual technical animation is always solid.
Yeah.
Have
for
you guys
sure.
looked at ugly Shaggy and Scooby-Doo freeze frames?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yes.
They do that weird
Yeah.
animation technique where
Beautiful.
they like make half of the movement.
Yeah, I think it's
And
like
then it's just
snitch
blur.
spearing or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
They're brilliant. They're brilliant
Oh,
stills.
amazing.
I love the. I used to have a blog way back in the day where I went through like old Scooby-Doo episodes, and I like got freeze frames of them and stuff, and saved them. And just in doing that, in like watching those old episodes again, and like trying to freeze frame for good stills, so many weird trends. Shaggy's little beard sometimes gets skin in it for no reason. So sometimes it's just like lines, and then sometimes it's like an extra gross skin tag on his leg. I mean, on his chin. Velma's skirt, sometimes it just like changes wildly how short it is. Sometimes it's like underwear level, like it's tiny, and then sometimes it's down to her knees. And also, Velma occasionally gets lips, like full-on lips. And she doesn't normally have lips, but just for some shots, they're like, and full-on, plump, kissable lips for Velma, and then never again. We're moving on.
Animators work really hard on that one frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, we'll just really quickly give her the sexy lips. Perfect. All right, and moving on. So the animation is great. It's great because it's good, but it's also great because it's
Wildly
sort of so buggy and crazy as well.
Yeah, I wasn't a massive fan of this film.
What?
I think most I think just the length. Like I think I'd have really enjoyed this if it was 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
For sure,
Yeah.
I agree.
I do have like that nostalgia for Scooby-Doo. I did watch it a lot when I was a kid. Not like, I mean, alongside everything else. So it is all sort of a mishmash in there with like Pokemon and other stuff that was on like Smile TV and whatever else, CBBC. But I did always enjoy Scooby-Doo more than the other. I think that and like the animated Mummy. Like that those all scratched like a really good Saturday morning itch. But yeah, I'm gonna give it 2 plantations out of 10, because that was the one that was the bit that I really couldn't get over, was just like the fact that it's a plantation and the Confederates, like they lead into it rather than try and they don't try and justify it anymore.
Yeah.
Or be like, oh, that's a bit problematic, or maybe like Shaggy being like, oh well, I don't want to keep this money because it's tied to slavery or tied to this sort of the Civil War and everything. Instead, he's like, like they just gloss over it like it's totally normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because of the fact that it's 2020 or 2021 and we're like, that's not okay. But in the 80s, it was like, it's fine. It's just old Uncle Colonel Beauregard. He had a plantation. It's not his fault.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's that's c'est la vie. Yeah, I feel it was just a product. Just given the amount of like old Scooby-Doo episodes where they did just fight civil. Like, this is not the first time Shaggy has inherited civil Confederate gold. Like, I think it's happened at least before. So I think it's just like a trend. I think there's one where he gets Confederate war bonds or something. So like, yeah, it just is a thing, I guess, that happened to Shaggy back in the day. Yeah,
he's got that look about him.
Yeah,
He's got the look of the Confederacy.
Yeah, I think I'd give this 3 of the clues that I actually solved myself and felt really smart about.
Come on, what were they? What ones?
Yeah, which ones?
Yeah.
Oh no, there was the cellar one was pretty easy in the attic, and oh, I got the grandfather clock one as well.
Did you get it before the shot of the grandfather?
Oh yeah, like
Okay,
immediately. And then I mean the other one, like
Hell
as
yeah.
soon as I saw the piano, I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
I
I like how they always conveniently walked in front of what the answer for the clue was like, in each scene. But yeah, I'm just still surprised that it was all hiding in the chimney where there's this big fuck off lever that looks like a slot machine, and I'm like, well, guess that just turns the fire on. I don't know.
Well, nobody's ever pulled that before, I
No.
suppose.
Never been cold enough in here. It's the South.
So my favourite clue was there's no mystery about the next clue. Inside Bear Cave, the jewel's in plain view, and it's it's in the Bear Cave.
The clues
Bear
got
Cave.
lazier. The best part is the clues got lazier. At one point, it's like it's down that tunnel.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
The whole clue is
Just go
down there. Please
You'll
go down
find
the
it.
tunnel. The treasures at the end.
there it is. The treasure's in the chimney. Who cares?
it's
Just
fine.
get it at this point.
Like, you know the chimney.
Yeah,
He was
clearly
dying
old Uncle
before-
Beauregard was just getting bored of writing clues at that point. I can't think of anything new. Whatever, it's in the chimney. I'm sick and old.
Yeah, fair play to him for like trekking all over the place. I want to say hiding the jewels, but just sort of scattering.
Just gotta
Oh, yeah,
put
no, he
them
just
around.
Put them down.
Yeah, they I mean, some of them were like buried or behind, like in a box or whatever, but some of them were just like, oh yeah, hanging on a bit of rock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the fridge.
Has he got bored?
So I was just saying, it's just as well the ghost didn't want ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Well, with that, I have been Dan.
I have been Michael.
I've been Helena.
And I've been Jackson.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Jackson. It's been
Yeah,
great.
thank you. It's a pleasure.
Where on the internet can all of these screaming fans find you?
If you head to sandsplantsradio.com, you can find many podcasts, on which I am on many, but Plumbing the Death Star, Thumb Cramps, Baseless Speculation, D&D's for Nerds. I'm on all these podcasts. Check him out if you like the sound of my voice. I talk about Scooby-Doo in quite a lot of them as well. So, hey, if you want more of this, that's a good place to go. And I'm on Twitter at AllDogsAreDead if you want to find me there.
Nice. You
Thank you
can
very much.
find this podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Hilton Pod. That's at HILTM Pod. Let us let us know how many of the clues in this movie you got.
No, let us know how far through this movie you got.
Yeah.
Before
with
doing
no, you're not being forced to watch it. So how long could you do with no impetus to finish the movie?
Do you reach the mansion?
Yeah.
that.
Thanks so much for having me on, guys. I appreciate
It's
it.
been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for joining
us.
us. It's been good. Yeah.
Yeah.